We'll be starting in just a couple minutes. Okay, hello and welcome to the Ferguson Library Presents Intermediate Microsoft PowerPoint. Today here, I'm Frank Skornia. I'm the Digital Librarian for Adult and Information Services, which means I handle teaching computer classes and scheduling our computer classes and handling a lot of our e-resources. Thank you all for joining me here today. I want to first kind of go over some quick things about kind of doing this class here on the YouTube platform. First off, if you have any questions at any time during the stream, please ask them in the chat. I will see them. What you're seeing is a slight delay from what I'm currently presenting, but I will see your questions or comments and will respond to them when I figure there's a good opportunity to get back to that there. The next thing I just kind of want to go over is make sure before the class starts, if you're going to follow along with the exercises that I'm going to be showing you through the course of this class, go visit the this pointing this direction. Go visit the website that I have on the link up here, fergusonlibrary.org/online-tech-classes. And what that will do is that will bring you to this page here, where we have all of our online technology class resources. So right up here at the top, we have our current schedule and links to our past recordings. So if you've missed anything that I've done over the last couple of weeks, you can go back and watch the recordings right here on YouTube. You can see what's upcoming in the next couple of weeks here. But I really want to show you is if you scroll down further, you'll want to click the tab here for Intermediate Microsoft PowerPoint. And what that'll do is that'll bring you to this tab here, and there'll be two different files that you'll want to access for the course of this class. The first here is going to be the exercise handout, which is going to be this file here. So what it'll do is it'll just give you kind of a quick idea of kind of overview of what this class will be covering, as well as the exercises that we'll be doing through the course of the class, and then some further study. I'll get back to this here later on in the class, kind of covering what's there. Let me go back here. The other thing that you'll want to do is get the second handout here. This is going to be the exercise file. You can see it says Intermediate Microsoft PowerPoint exercise file right underneath here. And that will be this file here that we'll be doing kind of all of our practice exercises in for the course of this class. So moving on, let me go back to here. So some other things on here. There will be an assessment survey at the end that I would appreciate if you would fill it out. I'll have the link for that. That's also available on the webpage down below the handouts. There's a link out to that. I did just see in our weather report that we do have thunderstorms coming through this area. We're under where I'm at is under a thunderstorm watch until 4 p.m. My power and internet tend to be pretty solid, but if it does cut out, it's because probably of the storm. So with that said, let us, if there's any questions about things going on, through the course of the class, you may notice me looking either up to the left or up to the right on my screen, and the reason for that there is I have a couple different screens that are showing me different things through the course of the stream. I'm seeing your comments, and then I'm also seeing just kind of the software that I have doing the streaming, just kind of making sure that everything is running smoothly. So if you see me kind of looking up into the corners, that's the reason why. So this is Intermediate Microsoft PowerPoint. Some of the things that you should already know coming into this class here, because these were covered in our basic intermediate class, or our basic PowerPoint class, and things I'm not going to really kind of cover or spend a lot of time on, is you should know how to create a new PowerPoint file, how to open and save and open a saved PowerPoint file, adding text and images to PowerPoint, changing the design of your presentation, and playing the slideshow. Those are kind of the basic skills that were covered in our basic PowerPoint class. If you want to go back and kind of rewatch that there, we do have the recordings on the Ferguson Library's YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch last week's class on PowerPoint. What this class is going to cover is we're going to look at the concept of slide and layout masters and look at what they are and what they can do for your presentation and as you're working in PowerPoint. We're going to look at transitions between slides, so how to add in transitions and how to adjust the options and different things that you can do to kind of make your presentation a little bit more dynamic than just jumping from one slide to the next. We're going to look at how to animate elements of your slide. So once again, it's a way to kind of add more dynamics to your presentation, to make it more than just a kind of static slide showing up onto the screen and then jumping to the next static slide. So things to kind of make different parts of your slide pop out, or kind of draw emphasis to certain areas, or just to kind of give a little bit more kind of fun and quirk to your presentation. And then finally, we're going to take a look at last week we're going to take a look at the presenter view. Last week we took a brief look at how to do the what happens when you play a slideshow and how to start playing your slideshow. Here we're going to look at some of the tools that PowerPoint gives you as a presenter. So things like adding notes to the slide so that when you're presenting you'll be able to see notes for each of the slide as you're presenting, and different tools that the presenter view gives you when you're preparing to present. So let's, if there's not any questions on that there, let's jump right into kind of starting working with our exercises. So if you want to be able to follow along, you'll want to open up the intermediate PowerPoint practice document that you downloaded from our online website, this website here. You want to download this file here and open it up in your version of PowerPoint. I am using PowerPoint 365 here, which is very similar to PowerPoint 2016 or PowerPoint 2019, kind of the latest versions of PowerPoint that are out there. If you are using an older version of PowerPoint, PowerPoint 2010, PowerPoint 2013, almost all of this stuff should be the same. So if there is anything different, please let me know in the comments in the chat, and I will help you kind of figure out where it is. I mean, you should be able to do all of the same stuff, so we just have to find out where it's located on there, and then we'll be able to kind of get you back on the track with everything else that we're doing. So that being said, the first thing that we're going to look into is we're going to look into this concept of what they call slide masters. So when you do a presentation, and a lot of times when you're building the presentation, you want to kind of have consistency from the beginning of your presentation to the end. You don't want to have like every single slide come in and be different colors, different fonts, things kind of skewed and kind of spread all over the place. You're going to, it's distracting for your audience, and it just makes you look like kind of a disorganized presenter if you have your slides kind of going all over the place. What slide masters do is they allow you to set up like a master template for how information looks on your slide, or not how your content appears on your slide. So things like if you want to be able to have like your organization or your company's logo onto every single slide, you can go in and add that into the slide master, and it will add in every single slide. That image will show up. So you don't have to remember to add that image. It will actually be kind of built into that slide. So Microsoft's definition of slide masters is that when you want all of your slides to contain the same fonts and images, such as logos, you can make those changes in one place. So that's also the advantage of the slide master, is that if you can set this up in the master, and if you ever do want to change the design, you can go to one place and make a single change, and it will change on all your different slides, which something like that doesn't seem to be so useful when you're only looking. In this case, we have 5 slides in this presentation here, but if you have a presentation that has 20, 30 slides in there, having to make all of those different kind of changes on every single slide can get tedious, and it will also lead to mistakes and typos. So by using the slide masters and connected layout masters, you'll be able to kind of reduce those mistakes and kind of have more control and power over how all of your presentation looks and works. It's a good idea. Microsoft recommends that that you edit your slide master and your layout masters before you start creating individual slides, because they will only affect slides that you make after you edit the slide master. So like these slides that are already in this presentation, the changes that we make in our slide master aren't going to affect these slides that we already made. In order to kind of get those changes, I'd have to go back and make those changes individually. So if you do it at the start of your presentation, then every slide that you create will match with kind of what you've created that time. So in order to access the slide master feature, where it lives in Microsoft PowerPoint is right up here. If we go up here on our ribbon, which is the top interface section up here, we're going to come over here to this View tab on our ribbon. We're going to click View. And you'll notice there's a bunch of different kind of view things available on here, but we're going to look at right here in the kind of the top middle left of the ribbon here. There's a section that says Master View. And there are, we have Slide Master here. This is what we're interested in today. You'll notice that there's a couple of different other tools here, Handout Masters and Notes Masters. Handout Masters is if you're making handouts to go with your presentation, you can actually automatically create handouts based on the slides that you create. Notes Master allows you to help organize and how your notes look and everything on there. But in this case, for today, we're interested just really in the Slide Master. So I'm going to click on this, and this will take me to the Slide Master view. You can see up here on the top in my toolbar, it says Slide Master now. This tells me that in Slide Master view, over here on the right of the ribbon, I have Close Master View. This is how I get out of the Master View. Some other areas that you kind of want to pay attention to here in when you're in Slide Master View is on the left, we have our slide kind of bar over here that shows all the different slides. Normally this shows all the different slides when you're in your regular view for PowerPoint. In Slide Master View, what it does, it shows up, I'm actually at the bottom. Okay, so what it does is here at the top, this is where we're going to start off. This here is the Slide Master. This is kind of the unifying kind of slide for all of your presentation based on the theme. And the theme is like the background and the colors and the fonts that are selected based on the theme for everything. And then underneath the Slide Master, these ones here, you can see they're kind of linked by this little tree kind of dotted line here. These are what they call layout masters. And so these layout masters have a variety of different useful layouts that you're able to, when you create slides. So for example, if we go down, we have a title slide with a subtitle on here. This is kind of, you're able to lay out kind of where these things lay and what fonts they use. Things like a content slide that's able to put a bunch of content in here and then a title up there. The blank slide, this is what a blank slide, you can see there's no content or anything in there. So you're able to actually lay out the pieces in what they call placeholders. Placeholders allow you to kind of set up areas on a slide, on a layout here, where when you create a slide using that layout, those placeholders will be in place to allow you to kind of build content regularly in your slide. So the slide layout contains the formatting, positioning, and placeholder boxes for all the content that appears on the slide. The placeholders, let me click here. So this is a placeholder here. This is a text placeholder. This is another text placeholder here. There are dotted line containers that hold content such as titles, body text, and charts. The layout also contains the colors, fonts, effects, and backgrounds of the slide. So the easiest way, I think, to kind of really kind of show what I'm kind of talking about here is we're going to actually create our own layout on here and just kind of see how that works in regards to the rest of our presentation that we have already made. So we're going to start up here. We'll look up here in the top left. There's this Edit Master section on the ribbon up here. And so a presentation can have multiple slide masters. Every time you use a different theme for your presentation, you'll get a different slide master. It is recommended for just consistency to make sure that your presentation all looks kind of really about the same. If you're the only one building in that presentation, just have one slide master and have everything kind of built off of others, just so that your look remains consistent through the whole presentation. But right next to this here, we have this Insert Layout button. And so I'm going to click on this Insert Layout button. And it's going to add in wherever I'm at. It might be down at the bottom of the list. It might be in the middle here, because I happen to be in the middle, actually. I'm going to delete that there. And we're going to click on our top slide master up here. I'm going to click Insert Layout, and it'll put it down here on the bottom. And so now this is kind of a default layout slide. So it has a place here, up here has a placeholder already built in to add a title. And so if I wanted to, I come into here and I can change this title. This is basically like dummy text in place to tell me, okay, this is what the title style or what font and color is going to be used. And if I want to, just like if I'm actually building a slide in PowerPoint, I can come over here to my Home tab and I can change the font, I can change the justification, I can change all of this stuff right in here in the Slide Master. So for example, I wanted to make this title here, let's make it blue. So I'm going to come here to the text color, I'm going to come down and I'm just going to choose blue. Light blue. Let's do the light blue. So now I have a blue text there. I mean, everything, it doesn't really match the style of all my other layouts because everything else is black, but we want to kind of make this kind of stand out to see how it's different from everything else that we're doing. Now in here, we're going to add in a couple different content placeholders. So the content placeholders, I'm going to come back to my Slide Master tab up here on the top left. And I'm come over here to Insert Placeholder, and you'll notice actually I have, just like with most of the things that happen in Microsoft Office on the ribbon, there are actually two buttons. There's a two-part button here. We have the button up here, which is just the default content placeholder that if I click on it, you can see I get this little plus symbol. My cursor becomes a little plus symbol, and I can drag diagonally to create the size of the space that I want the placeholder to be. Because remember, the placeholder is kind of a box on your PowerPoint presentation that when you choose that slide layout, and we'll see this actually when we start creating the slides. When you create the slide using this layout, there will be a place to put the content that you want. So you can see I dropped this here, and then we have kind of all this little content boxes there. So I'm actually going to delete this quickly just to kind of show you. If I click on the bottom part of Insert Place, it opens up a menu, and I have a bunch of different items here, a bunch of different things that I can create placeholders for. The default is this top one, which is content, and so content can hold all different types of content. It can hold text, it can hold images, it can hold media like audio or video, it can hold tables, it can hold charts, it can hold, basically a content one is like a catch-all. It can hold all different types of content that you'll put into a Microsoft PowerPoint slide. But if you wanted something to be like a specific content type, like for example, if you wanted to have just a place for somebody to be able to put text, you don't want to be able to put images there, you can choose a text placeholder. If you wanted something where it's just going to be a picture, you can put the image, chart, table, smart art, media, etc. You're able to kind of choose what the specific content is going to go into that space. If you're uncertain or you want to be as flexible as possible, you'll just use this content one at the top, because this content one will just basically be a space for any content that you want to put in. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to go in and we're going to add two placeholders side by side. And once I do this, I'm going to let you go off and do it in your own PowerPoint. And I forgot to mention that when I was covering kind of what we're doing here in the stream is that I know some of you're probably watching this in your browser window and you have PowerPoint opened up in the background. I'm going to show you the skill. I'm going to show you all this here, and then I'm going to give you 2 to 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how complex I think it is, time to go practice yourself. That's a good time during that there. If you have questions about what I've covered or you're kind of lost in kind of what you're supposed to do, ask me in the chat. I can go over it again, but it's also time for you to kind of practice these skills on your own. So to get back to it again, we're going to create, and I'll walk through all these steps before I send you off again. We're going to go in and we're going to insert two placeholders side by side. So I'm going to hit content here to make sure that I'm doing a content one. Now you'll notice when I start dragging this here, I start getting, so here's a good example here, I start getting these guidelines showing up. These are the same type of guidelines that you see when you're placing content into PowerPoint slides in the normal view. It shows things like right now, this one here is showing that the height of this content box is the same height as the title above. If I move this over to here, right about here, you can see now I have the right edge of this content box lined up with the center of my presentation. Here, the right edge is lined up with the left edge of that footer box down on the bottom. And it's kind of hard to see. I can't exactly point it, and I can't let go of my mouse. But you can kind of see that line kind of going from the bottom and kind of moving its way down. So you get those same guides that you get when you're adding content into your slides to be able to make sure that everything kind of lines up. And that's useful for what we're doing here. So for example, if I want to make two content boxes side by side, so I'm going to create one here, and now I'm going to go create a second one right here. And you can see by doing this here, now I can actually use the first one I made. So now I've made it so that the bottoms line up. You can see that dotted line down on the bottom there, and that they're the same width. And now it's just a matter up here to adjust the top bar so that now that lines up. So now they're two of them right next to each other, and then it'd just be a matter of maybe moving this so that I get the guide. There should be a guide somewhere. Oop, there it is. Yep, there we go. So there's the guide that shows that now this is kind of centered in the box, and it's the same distance as the other one is. So now they kind of almost exactly kind of mirror each other. So I'm going to send you off now. I'm going to walk through each of these steps one more time, and I'm going to send you off to kind of do this yourself. So what you're going to want to do is in your home tab, you're looking at your first page on your PowerPoint presentation. You're going to come here to View, and you're going to go to Slide Master right up here on the ribbon, and that will take you to the Slide Master here. You'll want to click Insert Slide Master up here on the top. Oh, no, sorry, you want to click Insert Layout here. So the second button from the left, all right up here on the top. And what that will do is that will make a new layout slide. And then you'll want to do this Insert Placeholder here. And you can click either this top part of the button, since we're just doing content placeholders, or you can do this bottom part and choose Content. And then you'll drag diagonally to draw a box on your presentation. Play around with the orientation or the lineup of them. You don't have to be as precise as I was trying to do there. Just kind of get a couple different content boxes placed onto your presentation. If you have questions, please ask me in the chat, and I will give you about 3 minutes to do this. Thank you. All right, so I hope everybody has done well with that. I always find these kind of moments of silence odd because I kind of almost have a radio mentality of this year of not really having any dead air, but I also don't want to continue talking because then it kind of distracts, and people tend to kind of stay in the browser window to view that there instead of going off and doing the exercises. So I always kind of a little uncomfortable during those silence moments, but I think they're kind of necessary. So we've now added in 2 content boxes onto our slide layout that we've created here. What did this really do? Well, let's go find out. So now that we've created our slide, actually, before I go on, but one thing that we'll want to do is after we've created our slide here, you'll notice right up here in the Edit Master section on the ribbon, up here in the top left, there's this Rename button. And so we have our new slide selected, or our new layout selected. We're going to click Rename. And what this does is this is going to give us the opportunity to give a name to this layout. And for this case, I'm just going to call it Class Layout, because we did this for the class. So then I'm going to click Rename. And so now if you notice, when I put my mouse over the different layouts over here, it does show a little tooltip that says what the name of that layout is. So this is a picture with caption layout. It will also tell me how many different slides in my current presentation are using that layout. So this one here is not used by any slides. If I go up to here, like this will be used by slides 2 to 4. If I go down to, I think blank is used by slide 5. So it'll tell you which slides are using those layouts. So you know if you've changed something, which slides it's going to affect. You'll notice now that after we did our rename over here, if I put my mouse over there and such, it tells me this is now class layout. A little redundant, but that's what it is. It's used by no slides because we have not created a slide using this new layout yet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here up to the top. I'm going to close master view. I'm going to go back to the normal view for PowerPoint. And you can see we're back to our PowerPoint presentation. And I'm going to create a new slide. So I'm going to come up here to the new slide button up here on the ribbon. And I'm going to click the bottom part of the button that says the menu for new slide. And you'll notice now there is a new layout added into it. Here's our class layout, the layout that we just made. Can I increase my view font? Oh yeah, sure. I can increase the size of the here. I don't know how much I can actually increase the view of the window itself. Simply because that's the resolution of the computer. Sorry about that. Let me see something here. I think I can actually, nope, that's going to do that. Yeah, I don't think I'm actually able to increase that size very much. Sorry. So that you can see right here, we have our class layout kind of view. This is the layout that we just made. And so if I click on this, this will now, and actually let me shrink this back down again so we can see the whole thing. You can see now that it's created a slide using that layout that we just made in the slide master. You'll notice the title up here is that blue that we set it to, or I set it to on mine. Yours is probably, if you didn't change that color, it would just be kind of black. And so now if I go in, type title or title for class layout, you can see it's typing into that blue. And then I have 2 different content boxes here that I can go in and I can add in. Either I can start typing text in like a bulleted list here because that's what it's set up for, or I can click one of the little content inserts here to insert a certain type of content. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to type in point 1, point 1a, point 1b, just to kind of get a bunch of different points, or a bunch of different kind of text kind of showing up, 1b, and then I'm going to do point 2, point a. And I'm doing this actually for a reason, because we're going to actually go back to the slide master, and we're going to see what happens when we make a change in our slide master, how it affects the slide that it works with. Point 2b, and then point 2b, or not to be, or not to be. And then over here I'll do the same thing. I'll do point 1, point 1a, point 1b, and then point 2. Okay, so we'll just do something very simple there. So you can see I've been able to kind of create the content, and it's kind of nicely mirrored back and forth. So once again, I'm actually going to go back to I'm going to go back to View. I'm going to go back to the Slide Master here again. And you can see I'm back down here still in the class layout. It kind of takes you right back to where it was when we started off, or when you left the slide layout. And one of the things I'm going to try doing here actually now is I'm going to go in and I decide, you know what, on this layout, I want to be able to put a picture. So we're going to add in an image onto here, or we're going to add in a shape from the shape, the insert on there. But I also want to change the color of like my different levels here. So what I'm going to do is that for my top level here, I'm going to highlight it just like I would normally if I was going to change the color when I created a slide. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make this, we're going to make this one green. And then we're going to go and make the second level. We're going to make this red. And we're going to make the third level. We're going to make this purple. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here, but some different colors. Let's do them in reverse. Let's do purple for this one. Let's kind of rotate a bit. We'll do green for this one, and we'll do red for this one. And then I said, as I want to add in some sort of like image or something. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this a little smaller. We're going to actually make this about half the size of the other one. So now I have this empty space here, and I'm going to go in and I am going to come over. Actually, we're going to come over to our Insert tab, just like we would be inserting if we were doing a normal slide. And I am going to choose, what do we have for icons? Anything good here? Yeah, so let's just insert in one of these icons. I'm going to insert in a dog. Dog. Come on. There we go. Insert. There we go. So now I have my little dog icon. Suppose this is the logo of my company, and I want to have this kind of up in the top corner of the slide where my content is. So we're going to put that there. So I have my little dog icon. So what did these changes do to this presentation? So I'm going to come back here to Slide Master, and I'm going to close the Slide Master view, just like I did before. And now we're going to go look at, so now here's that slide that we created, and you can kind of see that the changes that we made. Point 1 is now green, there's the red, there's the purple, here's the purple, here's the green, and there's my picture there. If I go and create a new slide now using that same class layout, you can see here it is, this placeholder here is now half the size of what it was before when I first did this. Here's my text, other one there and such, and there's my logo. So I've been able to basically make a template slide that whenever I create this slide, this is how it will look. I'll be able to build into these same specific areas and have it look. So if I can make a second slide that will match exactly with the one that what happened before. So that is the slide layout and the slide master and the layout master. Are there any questions on that there? Okay, so then we're going to so the next thing that we're going to look at in today's class actually is we're going to look at transitions. So actually I should give a little bit of time to make sure there aren't any questions first. So this is another thing, as if you've attended my other classes, I always encourage going in and kind of playing around and kind of seeing what these different things do. So we're really just kind of covering an overview of what these different skills are, and then you can kind of get in and practice and play around and kind of see the different things they do. Playing around in PowerPoint is a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun to play in PowerPoint than it is to play in Excel and Word, because there's just so many different things you can do in PowerPoint. So the next thing that we're going to look at doing is we're going to look at transitions. So transitions are a visual effect that basically show up when you advance from one slide to the next during your presentation. It allows your presentation to be a bit more dynamic, that it's, instead of it just like one side showing up and then the next one kind of popping up, it allows kind of a smooth shift from one slide to the next. You can control the speed of the transition, how the look of it, and you can also add sound to it if you wanted to. And so we're going to kind of play around with a bunch of these different things. Before I go, I'm actually going to move this down to make this the last slide. Oh, actually not that one. I want to delete this slide because I don't want that one. But I'm going to move this down to be the last slide because I just want it to be down there at the end because it matches up with the rest of my exercises and which slide numbers that I mention. So what you'll do actually in order to start a transition, to put a transition into a slideshow presentation, is that you'll go to the slide that you want to be transitioning to? So what is the destination slide? And so what this will do is I'm looking at slide 2 here, and what this will be is this will be the transition between slides 1 and 2. If you notice on the ribbon on the top, there's going to be a transitions menu, a transitions tab up here. And so we'll go to that. That's obviously where we're going to find all the different transitions that we want to do. Now, the ribbon, if we go across and look at the ribbon, we have our preview button over here. Right now, there's no preview because we don't have a transition in place. Then we have our selection of the different transitions that we can do, and this is that normal kind of, we have the bar that's visible here. I can scroll through the bar clicking the up and down buttons over here, or I can click this bottom, this more button, and it will show me all the transitions that are available. And PowerPoint, at least my version of PowerPoint here, PowerPoint 365, has the transitions separated between subtle, exciting, and dynamic. So subtle's what it says. It's a very subtle, it's the classic transitions, things like wipes and fades, going from one to the other. If you're trying to do kind of an understated presentation that you just kind of want to make it look smooth going from one to the other, you'll be using these subtle kind of things. But if you're doing something that's fun and you want to have something that's really dynamic, there's these exciting ones that do a lot of different kind of animation and kind of neat. And we're going to look at a combination of both of them there. And then you also have some of the dynamic stuff down here. Moving further to the right on our tour of the ribbon here, we have our effect options. So when we have a transition in place, we'll be able to change the different options, and we'll be looking at that in just a second. And then we have things like timing. When does the transition happen? How long does it happen? And does it play a sound? So for starting off here, we're going to add between slides 1 and 2, we're going to add a fade transition. So a fade transition basically fades out the first slide, so slide 1, it fades it out to black and then fades the other one in, or they kind of appear like at the same time. So one fades into the other. What does that mean? I'm going to come up here. I have slide 2 selected because that's my destination slide for this transition. And I'm going to hit fade. And it's played a really quick transition there. But if I go up here and click preview again, you can kind of see that it shows slide 1 and then it comes here to slide 2. That happens really, really quickly. Right now, the duration of this here, if I look up in the top right in my timing here, the duration of this here is 0.7 of a second. Let's make that a little longer. Let's go with a 2-second fade, just so we can kind of see what that effect looks like. So I'm going to hit preview again, and you can kind of see it goes from one slide and then the other one appears behind it, and that slide then disappears. So a fade is kind of that gentle kind of replacement of one slide and the other. 2 seconds may be a bit long if you're doing it for a presentation, but even at like that, what was it, 0.7 was what it was, you can still see it gives kind of a smooth change from one slide to the other, though a little quick for my taste. So in the exercises, let me just kind of quickly here show you where we're at on the exercises here. We're looking at this set of exercises here, 9 through 13. I'm going to give you about, it doesn't take long to add the transition. So we're going to say 2 minutes. Go into your presentation, your practice presentation, and follow step 10 here. So between slides 1 and 2, do a fade transition. Between 2 and 3, add a wipe transition. So those are both in the subtle transitions. And then between 3 and 4, we'll do an origami. And between 4 and 5, we'll do a wind transition. And where those are, let me just show again, is so between, between 3 and 4, I'm going to open this up, and you can kind of see that under the exciting ones, there's an origami one here. And then there's also a wind one. Now, depending on your version of PowerPoint, you may not have these transitions. If you don't have these specific transitions, use whatever ones that you want. So take about 2 minutes and go add those transitions. If you have questions, please ask in the chat. And I'll be working on adding them myself. So this one was a Oh yeah, and then as you're working on this here, just add a whatever transition that you want between slides 5 and 6. It really doesn't matter. I'm gonna do random bars. Yeah. Okay, so have we all gone and added transitions between the different slides? So what happens is that now on each of the different slides, you'll notice that if I come back up here to slide 2, you notice now that the effect options button over here is now lit up. So this one here was the one that I did a fade slide. I did a fade transition. If I come here and click effect options, you can see actually now I get two different options. I get smoothly or through black. And so the difference between that, right now by default it selects smoothly, which means that it smoothly goes from the first slide to the second slide through a fade. Fade through black, what that means is that it will fade the first slide to black, and then from black go to the second slide. And what does that look like? It looks like this here. And I'm actually going to increase the length of that so you can kind of see it at a little bit slower pace. So when I hit play, you can see it goes to black and then brings the other one up from black. And so something like that is good if you have something that's like a really kind of dynamic change, like your whole background color is changing. So if you're going from a slide with a white background to a slide with a bright colored background, it can be kind of jarring to do a transition, a fade transition with something that different between one and the other. So a fade to black kind of takes it to a neutral area and then kind of brings it back up to where you want to go. So those are different. And so different transitions have different effects. If I go to slide 3, where the transition I did was this wipe transition, and I open up the effect options, you can actually see now that there's a bunch of different options. And what these are is choosing where the wipe comes from. By default, it comes from the right. So what happens is it kind of wipes in from the side. This one here, this page, slide 3, will push slide 2 off the edge. Let me play that. You can see what that does. So you can kind of see it kind of wipes in from that side, kind of from the right side. But I can make it come in from, say, a diagonal corner. So when I play that there, you can see it comes in this way, and the old slide disappears, and this one here slides in, going from the top left to the bottom right. Let me actually make that longer again, just so we can kind of see what that looks like. Preview, and you can kind of see now it kind of starts up there and kind of fades in, going from top left to the bottom right. Different effects. So the origami one that we did here, which is a kind of a fun transition, you have different options about whether or not the origami bird flies off to the right or flies off to the left. If I do this here, now it turns and flies off to the left. Something like the wind effect that I did here, which is a wind catches a page and pulls it off. Does it go off to the right or left? So you have different effects based on which transition. Are we going horizontal or are we going vertical for this random bars one that I chose there? So different options. You can kind of play around with your different options and kind of make it kind of look the way that you want it to look. I do encourage that depending on the presentation you're doing, sometimes if you get too much into the transitions and do a lot of different things, it can get kind of distracting. Usually it's kind of good to choose like a specific type of transition and do that between between all of your slides, and don't kind of change it up. Like we've changed up different things here because we wanted to see what the different transitions do. But a lot of times it's best to kind of select whichever transition you want to do and do that for all of your slides, and usually kind of set the options to be kind of the same thing. Now, one of the things that you can do, I've been adjusting the duration of the transitions throughout the course of the kind of this demonstration here, because I want to see them go longer or shorter. So you know how you can adjust the duration. One of the other things that you can do is you can add a sound to the transition. And so if you're doing a presentation where you're going to be able to play sound out, this might be kind of a fun thing to do. Again, be careful with it because it might be distracting as you're presenting, but depending how the slideshow is meant to be used, whether it's just something, is it supposed to be a slideshow that's just playing and it's showing images, it's going to loop and kind of play there, something like that might be good, or if that sound is something like important that you want to do. So I thought a foot example is on slide 5, I had put in this wind transition, which is what this does. It kind of like looks like it's a wind grabbing the page and kind of pulling it off. And in the sounds that come with PowerPoint, there is a wind sound. So if I click on this here, and now what it will do actually is it will, you get the sound of the wind kind of grabbing and pulling off the slide there. So you're able to add sound to them as well too. There's a bunch of built-in sounds, but you can also add in other sound by clicking other sound and then browsing to it on your computer. So I'm going to actually give you just a minute, kind of go back and we'll do a couple of minutes. Let's do 2 minutes. Go back, take a look at the different effect options for the transitions that you selected, and then add sound either like in the exercises to slide 5 like I did here, or you can add sound to the other one. So just kind of see how it is. If you have questions, let me know in the chat, and then once we're done with that, we're going to move on to animations and kind of see what those are able to do. All right, so have we all kind of played around with the transitions a bit and looked at the different effects and added some sounds? So now we're going to go in and we're going to look at animations. So we're going to come back up here to slide 2, which has this the graph for the chart on it. At least slide 2 in my presentation, but whatever the one is that has the graph and the chart on there. And we're going to come up here to the animations tab on the top on the ribbon there. So animations allow you to make an object appear, disappear, move. You can change size, you can change the color, and there's several different types of animations that are available in PowerPoint. So there's things like an entrance animation. How does an object or an element that's on your presentation, how does it appear on the slide? And elements are basically any of these different things that you insert. So in this case, in this slide here, we have a title and we have this graph that's on there. On test page 3, we have an image as the element. I use the word element to kind of describe those different pieces of content. You could do an entrance animation. So how does it show up on the slide? You can do an emphasis animation, which basically it's the element is on the slide, but you're able to kind of do something that'll help draw the eye to it to kind of make it kind of pop or show up on there. There's an exit animation. There's exit animations that you can do. So how does that element leave the slide or leave the view of the viewer? And then finally, there's also motion paths. And what motion paths are is like you can actually have an object move across the screen. So in order to add an animation to a slide, what you have to do is you have to select an element to be animated. So in this case, I'm going to click on the chart that I have here. And you notice that now I'm in the animations tab. All of a sudden, all of my animations up here just like lit up. And I'm going to click the more button, and we can kind of see all the different animations. And so here are those 4 different types that I talked about. There's the entrance animations, there's the emphasis, there's the exit, and then there's the motion paths. And things like, you look at emphasis, and a bunch of these things here are grayed out because they're animations that can't be applied to a graph. For the purpose of this animation, what we want to do is we do want to do an emphasis. We want the graph to be on the slide. Because something like a graph is too big to kind of have it slide in or do something show up on the slide. Usually in most cases, again, if you want to have kind of an understated presentation, you kind of want to have this kind of be visible there, but you can still do things to kind of make it kind of pop, or as you're presenting, kind of make things kind of show up. So what we're going to do actually is we're going to add in this pulse animation. So I've clicked on the graph, in the menu selection, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to click pulse. And what they'll do is I'm going to play it again. You can kind of see it makes it kind of like kind of beat, like almost like a heart. It kind of pops up and beats. So what you're able to do with this pulse animation is just like when we were dealing with the effects or with the transitions, there's also options that can work with the animation. So if I click on effect options here, you can see actually that there's a sequence. How does this pulse animation work in this presentation or on this slide? By default, it's as one object, so it treats the whole chart as a singular object and pulses it all at the same time. But you can see actually that there are some other different options that are available here. So I can do something, say, by series. And what it will do actually is it will pull up those individual series, the blue, the red, and the orange. It will play those all kind of individually. Let me preview that again. You can kind of see. So it pulsed the whole graph, and then it pulsed each of the individual series. I can also do by category. So each of my different categories down here. So depending on how I wanted to emphasize the data as I'm talking about this data, if I want to talk about the individual series, okay, here's apples and apples and apples, here's the oranges and oranges and oranges, or do I want to say here's quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, versus doing something like apples, tomatoes, oranges. I'm trying to think of something that matches with the color there. But so we can do things like the elements in a series, and you can kind of do going across for each element into the different quarters. And then by element and category. So we can do it. So there's some options on how you can kind of pulse and kind of show that there. And this is something that PowerPoint automatically pulls in by knowing, okay, this is a chart from Excel, and this is the data that it's working with there. And so it knows it's able to pull these off as individual pieces and kind of work with them on that. Let me see what we're going for the... There are other different types of animations that we can do. So we can do like an entrance animation. So I'm going to come down here to slide 4, the image with, or the slide with the image on here. And then I'm going to select the image, and I'm going to give it a wipe animation. So a wipe animation is just like the wipe transition, where it will, in fact, is this the one that has, this one doesn't have the wipe transition. It kind of wipes in from one edge or the other. So if I go on wipe, you can kind of see it kind of wiped up from the top. And so it's almost like, say, drawing up like a blind or like a shade kind of pulling up from the bottom. Just like with the transitions, I'm actually able to change the effects. Do I want to do it from the top, which is almost like, say, pulling down like a screen or a blind on a window? You draw it down from the top. Or is it from like left to right? Am I drawing like a curtain across? So you can see different animations are also going to have different effect options and kind of different things that they're able to do. An image is going to have a few less options when it comes to animations than, say, something like a chart, because a chart has a lot of different individual pieces in there. Once you've added the animation, you can kind of see that there's this little kind of reddish orange box that says number 1 on there and such. And what that's saying is that there's an animation in place, and this is the first animation that will play. If I go back to my other slide, you can kind of see I have all of these different, goes from 1 to 13 because of the effect that I have. And so I'm actually able to look at and see these are all the different parts of the animation. Because if you remember, when we played this, if I preview this, it plays all these different pieces. Those are all the individual pieces of the animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give you 2 minutes. Go into your presentation. We're going to do, let me pull this up here so you can kind of see. We're going to do steps 14, 15, and 16, and 17. Do those steps in the exercise. Take about 2 minutes. It doesn't take long to add an animation to something, just so that you're kind of caught up in kind of what I'm doing here. And then we'll kind of take a look at some of the other animations that we can do and some of the controls that you have over the animations. So if you have any questions, let me know. We'll come back in about 2 minutes. All right, so now we've gone and we've added in a couple different animations to our PowerPoint presentation. In this case, we've actually added in animations to like whole objects on the page. But you can also be a little bit more fine-tuned with how the animations play. And so we're going to do that there. We're going to go down here to slide 5, or test page 4. Which shows just kind of has a brief outline with kind of a bunch of different things going on there. Now this is just a text box added in on there. So if I click on this, you can kind of see it's just a standard text box with every point entered into there. Just like with the graph on slide 2 or the image on slide 3, I can apply an animation that affects everything in this text box. So I can apply an animation to the whole text box. So we're going to do that first. We're going to come up here and we're going to drop down the box and we're going to come down, and you can kind of see with a text box, we get all of the emphasis things are actually lit up. And we're going to go in, we're going to actually add this font color option on there. So we're actually going to be able to change the color of the font as an animation. So if I do that there, you can kind of see it goes from black to, if I'm going to play that again, it goes from black to kind of a red color. And ends. If I wanted to, if I come up here to the effect options, I can change what color it becomes. So if I wanted it to become, let's make it green, you can kind of see now it will kind of change everything. It will kind of change the color, or transition the color from black to green. The color that it starts off with is whatever color that you set it. So if I go in and change this here to, if we change it to red, and then we go in and play the animation, it'll go from red to green on there. So it's like whatever you start with, and then you choose what the end color is on there. But this has been doing it for every single point on here. So if I come up here, I can do it either all at once, and you can kind of see it does them all at the same time, or I can do it by paragraph. And what it'll do is it'll do point 1, it'll then do point 2, and then it will do point 3. So by selecting the whole text box, I have a few different options about the different ways that the animation can kind of play on there. But what happens if I only want to say do the animation on certain points in the in this outline on here? Suppose I just want to do point 1, point 2, and point 3. I want to leave these other points the same color that they are. So you can do animations on specific parts of each element as well too. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the animation that I already have here by coming up here to the animation list, and like right up here at the very top is a none, which basically says, hey, don't use an animation. So we're going to do that there, and now there's no animation on everything. It's just the red text. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight point 1. So I'm just going to highlight just this part here, just like if I was going to just change the color or the font or whatever for just that part. And then I can go in and I can do a font color. So you can now see it's still lit up here. And so now when this plays, if I play it, it will only change the color of, actually let me have this go to green. There we go. So now it will just change the color. Come on, play. There we go. It will just change the color of that first point. And I can do that the same thing with all of my individual points. So we're going to go in, we're going to change that, and we're going to go to blue, and then here we're going to change this again, and I'm going to take it to purple. Okay, so now if I do preview, it will now play this one there, and then it will play this one, and then it will play this one, but leave all the other individual pieces the same. So you're able to do an animation either on the whole element or pieces of the element if it's something like a text piece in here. Something like if I go back here to the image, there's only one image. There's only one piece to that element. So I can't do like an animation to this part of the image and then an animation to this part of the image. But on here, I can do for all the individual points if I wanted to. So I could actually do an animation for every single point. Now you'll see this here has, just like when we looked at slide 2 and we did the animation for all the different parts of the bar graph, this here it's showing 1, 2, 3. Those are the 3 different animations that are playing. Animation for that one, animation for that one, and animation for this one. You can see when I highlight it, it lights these up to that specific color. If you're looking at a slide and you see these little boxes there and such, you can also get a sense of what animations are showing up on that slide. By up here in the advanced animation section on the ribbon, there's this animation pane. And if I click on this, what this will do is this will open up the sidebar over on the right side of your PowerPoint window, and it will show you the different animations that are present on the page. If I go back here to slide 2, you can kind of see here's all 13 of those different animations that we have going on when we play this. So if I play this here, we have all those different pulses. And you can kind of see actually, as it's playing it as it goes down, you can kind of see the little line in the plane as it lights up each of the different colors on there. Let me play that again so you can kind of see that over on the right side. And you can kind of see that it lines up and the line matches with what it's doing in the presentation there. So if I go over here and I play this here, you can kind of see it play over there, and then it goes down to number 2 and plays that over, then number 3 and then plays that over. If I wanted to change the order of the animations, it's just a matter of selecting, and then I have the little up and down arrows here to move it up or lower. So if I click this down, it's now moved 2 after 3. How does that play? Let me preview. And you can kind of see we have that changing colors, then we're going to have this changing color, and now we're going to have that changing color. So I was able to change the order that the animations were playing as well too. By default, when you first set up an animation, it will just start playing from when you start up the slide. I'm pretty certain about that there. But you can actually trigger the animation starting on whether or not you click. Or actually, these all happen by clicking. So you can see right now, if I go and select, actually I'm going to move this back into the right order so that just makes sense there. But you can see when I click on my first animation, I can do this over here. I can click on 1, I can click on 2, or I can click on 3. They're also over here in the animation pane. There's this timing section up on the top right. And over here, this is where I can also change the order that they play in over here. But over here, I can also set on like how the animation, what starts it, and how does it, how long does it play, how long does it take the animation to happen, and whether there's a delay. Whether or not it's like it starts and then or like the slide shows up and then maybe it waits 5 seconds and then it starts playing. By default, they all show up on click, which means that when you have the presentation playing, you have to click to make that animation happen, which is really useful if you're doing like an entrance animation. So for example, like our image here, which has that wipe show up, this shows up on click. So let me actually just show you. If I go to the presentation, okay, so we're going to go back here, and we're in our presentation. So we're looking at slide 3. I'm going to click, and it will do the wipe. So it will actually play and just show when I click. So I have complete control over when that animation plays. If you want to automate, you can automate it. We can come in here, and I can start with point 1. When does it start? So I'm up here on the top right again. It starts with previous or after previous. If I start with previous, means that it will start as soon as the slide loads, because this is the first animation. It will start playing just as the slide loads. If I wanted to, I can delay that for a few seconds. So if I wanted to wait for about 5 seconds, I could go into and make this 5 seconds. There we go. You can kind of see this moves it across the timing thing. So now if I go and hit preview, you can see this is going to play across. It's playing across 5 seconds, and it's going to start the animation, and then it's going to jump down and work on the next one, and then the next one on there. So you can either automate the playing of the animations with, they either have with previous or after previous. So this means that with previous means that it's going to wait 5 seconds, like in my session here, it's going to wait 5 seconds after the previous animation. Or it's actually with previous means that it's going to play at the same time as the previous animation. So if I come down here and do this with previous, these are now going to play at the same time. But I can also do it as after previous. So now it will automatically play, and you can kind of see, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, I'm going to reduce the timing on this to 3 seconds, just so it kind of moves across. And you can kind of see this ends up being almost like a little timeline, as if like you're doing like a film editing, and the film editing timeline. You can see this animation playing. So if you think over here on the left side is the start of the timeline that you have the kind of, is the progress bar is kind of moving across, and then it hits this animation, starts playing it, and then it gets to the end there, and then the line over, and it cuts down to here and starts playing this one going across. So you can actually set up a sequence for the animations. There's a lot here to the animations. It can get kind of complicated, kind of playing around, kind of doing different things on there and such. We're not going to kind of cover it all in this class there, but it's definitely a really fun thing to go in and play. And when you're playing around with it, I recommend you can either do things like bring in some pictures, smaller pictures than this year, because you want to be able to have things kind of show up on the screen, or just do something as simple as like a text outline like this here, where you can kind of play with all of the individual points and kind of see what these different animation speeds are. And this year it's like I can either use the toolbar up here, or I can actually just kind of like drag it around as I want to the specific timing. So now this here, if I played this now will go through, it's churning that one, pausing a bit, playing that one, and then playing the bottom one there and changing that to a color. Or it's waiting, and there we go. Now it gets to the other color there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you about 3 to 4 minutes. Actually, let's do 5 minutes so you have some time to kind of really play around with the animations. Go into your PowerPoint presentation, play around with the different slides, whether it's the graph, and kind of see the different kind of animations that you can do with the different elements of the graph, the image one here, and then the text one that we have here with the different points. And with the different points, you can either do an animation to the whole outline of points on there and such, or you can highlight individual points and do a specific animation on that one there. So take about 5 minutes. If you have questions about this here, go in, play around with the different types of animations, see what the different effects are. Open up the animation pane over here and kind of play around with the timing and the spacing of those animations. If you have questions, please ask them in the chat. I'm going to be right back just briefly, but when I come back and I see your questions, I will try to answer them. Thank you. Okay, just a couple more minutes of playing around, and then we'll get on to the next thing that we're going to work on in this class. Thank you. All right, so we're going to be looking at one more skill, or one more thing actually in PowerPoint for this class. And what we're going to be looking at now is we're going to be looking at what's happening when you're done with your presentation and now you're standing up in front of a bunch of people and you're going to be presenting it. So last week in basic PowerPoint, we took a quick look at how to start and stop your slideshow. And that's available here in the Slideshow tab on the home, on the ribbon. So it's just as easy as going to do from beginning to end. One of the great features that Excel offers is the presenter view. And what the presenter view does is it provides you a it's a way to view your presentation with your speaker notes on one computer while your slides appear on the screen that the audience sees. So they'll just see your slide, but you're able to see in your presenter view all of your notes. So let me actually show you quickly what this will look like. So what I'm going to do is in the slideshow presentation here, I have use presenter view turned on, and now I'm going to start my slideshow from the beginning. And so this is what it should look like. Hopefully you are seeing what it looks like. And so the slide presentation shows you the current slide that's being shown right here. This is the slide that's being displayed out to everybody, so you can kind of see what that looks like. Over here, you get a preview of what your next slide is. So as you're presenting, you're going to be prepared. You're able to see kind of what's going on with that there. And then you have your notes. And so right now, we haven't put any notes in on this slide. This is one of the things we're going to do just in a second. We haven't put any notes in, but if you put in notes for the slide, you'll be able to see them here. Your audience will not see them. This is what the audience is seeing right now. If I go up and swap this out, the audience is seeing this view. They're just seeing the slide, so they're not seeing your notes, they're not seeing the next slide, and they're not seeing your little tool bar that we have available. So let me change back to here. So some of the other elements or some of the other features that you get here in the slide view is there's the See All Slides option. So if I click on this, what this does is this shows me all of the slides in my presentation. I only have 6 here, but you can see there's space for a lot more to kind of show up. And this allows me to easily jump to a specific slide. So if I'm, say, doing a presentation, like I'm say talking to the class here about this here, and I'm showing you this slide presentation, and I've gotten up here to slide 3. Actually, that's going to be, so I go into slide 3 here, and then I get a question. Hey, a couple minutes ago you asked about, or you said something about A, B, and C. Can you go over that again? It's like, okay, instead of me having to click back, if I click back and forward through my slides, one of the things about having to go back or forward through the slides is that it goes through and it plays all of the animations and all the transitions, and it can be kind of tedious. It can be kind of flustering too as a presenter to try to figure out, okay, do I have to go back 4 slides? Do I have to go back 3 slides? It's really easy to go and hit See All Slides. Okay, so you asked a question about A, B, and C. Let me jump over here and show you that graph again. And so then what it does is then it jumps over here and it then takes me to the graph and allows me to demonstrate and show the graph again and be able to talk. Okay, this is what we're doing. This is everything we're doing. And then when I'm all done, I can right click and I can go back to last viewed. And what that does is that will take me back to the place that I left off during my slide. So See All Slides just gives you a nice easy access back to all of your different slides in your presentation. There's a zoom function, this magnifying glass. What the zoom function allows you to do is it allows you to choose and zoom in on a section on your slide. So that if there's like a certain area that you want to kind of emphasize that you haven't, say, put an animation to, if you want to be doing it while you're presenting, it's like, okay, I want you to look at this little bit right here. You can zoom in on that section there, and then if I then turn off zoom, it then goes back to the full slide. So you have a zoom function that's available on there. Another useful feature that the presenter view gives us is it gives us the, we have over here this little pen icon. We get three different tools here. We have a pen and a highlighter, which allows you to actually mark up your screen. So if I come here to pen, I can then actually click and draw on my screen. So we're talking about the title here, and these are the details, and you'll want to do 1, 2, and 3 on there, and you want to go this direction, and then we're going to loop around and go this way and get them from behind. So you can go in and you can actually draw in with the pen on there. And the highlighter does what a highlighter does. It allows you to highlight sections. So okay, you want to make sure that you pay attention to the title here. This is what's important. Finally, there's also a laser pointer, and the laser pointer just kind of points around, and you can't see because you're not seeing my what the audience is seeing, the audience screen on there and such, but there's this little red dot that kind of moves around, so it allows you to kind of point and direct kind of things if you don't actually have like a physical laser pointer or you don't have access to be able to point to the screen. This is actually something that works digitally as well too. Once everything's on there, you have the ability, you can change your ink colors. You can also erase what you have on there. So I can get rid of my arrows that I drew, or I can erase all of my marking on the slide itself. Finally, the other kind of feature that's really useful in the presenter view is the black or on black slide. Sometimes when you're presenting, or you want to say start off presentation, and there's something that you want to hide or not show, I can black out the slide so that I'm not showing my slide presentation. So this is also useful that as you're presenting and you say there's something up on the screen and you don't want it to be, suppose you want the next slide to be like a surprise on there. You could go in and you could have built in transitions and animations to kind of make things pop up when you click and make them happen. Or what you can do is you can black out the slide and then you can then reveal it when you need to. Or if you get, say, to the end of your presentation and you want to sit and talk and you're answering questions and you don't want to have the presentation be like a distracting side thing where people are looking on there and such, you can always just black out the presentation so that it's not being projected any longer. And then their focus will be on you instead of you and your slideshow. Some of the other things to also pay attention to in the slide view here is you have your navigation forward and back on the slide down here. It'll tell you what slide you're on and how many slides that you have. Up here in the top left, right above the slide, is a timer that is telling you how long your presentation is going. This is very useful if you're doing a timed presentation, that if you know you have 10 minutes to speak. Here I'm already at 6 minutes and 15 seconds, so I know I have 3 minutes and 45 seconds left before my 10 minutes is up. Over here, they have a clock, which is based on the computer's clock. So if the computer's clock is off, this will be off, but most computer clocks are correct. This is just another useful thing to know. Okay, my talk is ending at 4 o'clock, so I know I have this much time left. You can kind of keep an eye on kind of that there without having to maybe be looking at your watch or pulling at your phone and looking at it such. This is showing up on your computer screen, and you're able to easily kind of see that time without it being a distraction for how you're presenting. Up here we have display settings. This allows you that if you ever say start your presentation on a computer and it shows the slide on the computer screen and it shows the presenter view over on like the projected screen, you come up here to display settings and you can swap between presenter view and slideshow, and what that does is that just swaps which view is showing up on which screen. Let me swap back so we can kind of see this. Now, if you wanted to follow along with this on your own computer, let me just quickly, if you only have one screen on your computer, let me just kind of quickly show you how to get to that there. If you want to see what it looks like, if you're practicing your presentation and you want to see what your presentation looks like in presenter view and you just have your computer, you don't have a second screen, or you don't have a a monitor, or you don't have a projector to kind of see things going on there. So, what we'll do actually is I'm going to turn off presenter view here. I'm going to go into my presentation. So we're seeing my presentation here. Actually, no, we're not, because it's on the wrong screen. Hold on, sorry about that. Primary monitor. There we go. Now you're seeing it. When I move my mouse, we have this like little light colored toolbar down here on the bottom left. There's this little 3 dots on the right. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to do show presenter view on this menu. And what that does is, doesn't show it here because I have multiple screens going on, is that it should then load up the presenter view on your screen. It's a little odd for me because I do have multiple screens, and so PowerPoint is behaving as it should with multiple screens. It's showing things on different monitors. But if you just have a single screen, you would click that little 3 dots and you would do hide or you would do show presenter view there. So that is presenter. The last thing I just wanted to show in regards to presentations and the presenter view is notes. So if we go here to, say, test page 1, where we have we have our graph with our different points on there, down at the bottom of every single slide is this little section that says click to add notes. And so this is a useful thing to do as you're building your presentation. I can go here and I can put in, say, the numbers. Okay, so in Q1, apples sold almost twice as well as tomatoes, and they both did better than oranges. So just suppose I put in that note. You can put whatever notes, you can organize, you can do bullet points, you can kind of do whatever you want in there. So now I'm going to go here and I'm going to just make sure this all displays properly again. And so now when I go into presenter view, and I go into, say, slide 2. You can see now over on the right side over here in my notes, here's the notes that I just wrote. In Q1, apples sold as well as tomatoes, and they did both did better than oranges. It's like right above where my head is right now on the presentation. So what this did was this allowed me to be able to put notes that here in presenter view, the audience isn't seeing these notes, but they're notes from me. So whether or not I'm reading information off the graph here, or I'm providing additional information in notes, you could, depending on your presentation style, make this verbatim so that you're just reading it off like a teleprompter. Or you can just have it be kind of bullet points, however you want to do your notes for when you're presenting. So this is kind of like if you've ever done presentations and you've had like little note cards and you've gone through note card after note card on there and such. This is that equivalent of those note cards, but in a digital fashion using PowerPoint. In the presenter view, down in the bottom left of the notes box is these 2 little buttons. Yeah, you can kind of see them on there. You can make your text larger. So if it's something a little bit hard to read when you're standing at the podium or a lectern or however you're presenting it, it's hard to see your screen and read that, you can make the text larger. Or if you have a lot of text in there and you want to be able to get more of it on there, you can kind of make it smaller to see more of it that's visible. So there's just all of these different things that help set up. And so you can see as I'm hitting play here and such, it's playing the different, and there's my animations that I played through, all those different parts. You can see these are all set on click. So I'm able to talk about, and it's emphasizing those different points as I'm talking about them. You'll notice that when I got to the end of the animations, my next slide over here is now showing the next slide. Whereas before, it was just showing the same slide that I had before, because there's an animation. There's something still that had to be played on this slide. So if I go there, I now see in my next slide, I'm then able to go to it, and okay, now I'm moving to my next slide, and there's my transition that I set up going through. So that is presenter view in PowerPoint. It's just a really great tool, and it's something that's shown up in Microsoft Office as computers have gotten more intelligent on how to deal with additional monitors or additional displays. It used to be that when you plugged in a computer into a projector, it was just a mirror. What you saw on the screen was what got projected. But over time, Windows has gotten a lot more complex on how it's able to deal with those different images and what it's able to show. And it's become almost I can't say it's not foolproof, absolutely, but it's become easier that it will automatically kind of set things up so properly, so you're not having to you're not doing like the finicky adjustments before you do your presentation as much. So this has been Intermediate PowerPoint. I was going to see if there's any questions about anything that's been covered. Is there any questions about the master views or the animations and transitions or about presenter view? I'm going to give a couple minutes to see if any questions come up to catch up with the delay, and then we'll kind of close out this class with some last details. All right, so if there aren't any questions for me right now, I just want to kind of quickly draw your attention first to our my kind of assessment survey that I have for this class here. So if you enjoyed this class and you enjoyed kind of what I did here, please visit projectoutcome.org/responses/50650. And it'll allow you to kind of fill out kind of just a satisfaction survey about kind of what you had through this class here. This link is also available on the fergusonlibrary.org/online-tech-classes under the intermediate PowerPoint. Let me just show you where that is on there. So if we go over here, you can see I'm back to the online-tech-classes and then come down, and there's a survey link here that you can click and go fill out the survey. I'd be grateful if you would do that. Coming up in our schedule is that next week on Tuesday and Thursday we have 2 more classes. Where I'm doing Advanced Microsoft Word on Tuesday from 2 to 4. And then on Thursday, I'm doing Microsoft Office Integrated, which is covering Word, Excel, and PowerPoint and using them all together. So different ways that you can use them together. And then the next week on April 21st, I'm doing a HTML and CSS web building class, building a website from scratch using HTML and CSS. For Microsoft Office or for Microsoft PowerPoint, if you want to continue your learning, I recommend going to lynda.com, and if you look at the handout that you downloaded at the bottom of page 2, I have a section here for further study and practice with some information about lynda.com. Lynda.com is a fantastic online learning tool for learning a wide variety of different softwares and different business and personal skills. So I mean, they have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, they have Access, they have QuickBooks on there, they have Photoshop, they have Premiere, they have iMovie, they have things like project management and leadership skills. So there's just a wide range of different things to learn with lynda.com. If you go there, you'll want to access through this link that I have on the handout or from one of the links on our website, on the fergusonlibrary.org website. Otherwise, they're going to charge you for a subscription to join. Here, you just have to sign in with your library card number and your PIN, and you get free access to everything that they offer. I've highlighted here several different courses that are on lynda.com that kind of continue to expand upon what this course covered. So they probably do it a lot better than I did. So things like dealing with animations or animating text and objects, and then transitions. And then PowerPoint also does a lot of really great things with audio and video, which we just don't have time or the space to cover in our current classes. And so I've included a lesson there on how to include things like audio and video into your PowerPoint presentation. So with that, if there are any other questions, I will hang around for a couple of minutes. Please ask them. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope to see you next week for Advanced Word and Microsoft Office Integrated. Thank you, and have a good afternoon and a fantastic weekend. Happy Easter, everybody, and happy Passover to those who celebrate. All right, so it doesn't seem like there's any questions. If you do have any questions, you're welcome to contact the library through our virtual chat, which is going to be open until 5 today and then open tomorrow again from 10 to 5, or through the contact us on the fergusonlibrary.org website. So with all of that, thank you very much again for joining me, and I hope to see you next week. Have a good weekend and enjoy your holidays, whichever ones you celebrate. Thank you and goodbye.